Hi everyone, my name is Alexandra Martinez. I am a developer advocate here at MuleSoft, and we will continue with the Getting Started series. In the last video, we learned some of the best practices that we can do to our Mule projects. We learned how to set up a global XML file to keep all of our global configuration elements, and we also set up some local.properties and dev.properties files to keep all of our values separated in these files instead of hard-coding it in the code. In today's tutorial, we will learn how to secure properties before deploying them to CloudHub. First of all, our friendly reminders. If you don't already have an Anypoint platform account, you can just go ahead in anypoint.mulesoft.com and you can sign up for a free account or just log into your usual account. And if you haven't downloaded Studio, you can just go ahead in mulesoft.com/studio and you will see this page where you can just download for your operating system. This is MuleSoft's IDE, and this is where we will be developing all of our applications. We have also been using Postman as our REST client, but you can also download the advanced REST client from MuleSoft, or you can use curl if you prefer to work on the terminal. So in our last video, we ended up creating the dev.properties and the local.properties files. In this video, we're going to do more or less the same, but we are going to create secure properties. So for this, go into Source Main Resources and then click on New, File. And this time, let's just select local.secure.properties. Click on Finish. And let's also do the same for a dev.secure.properties and click on Finish. Now that we have these two, let's fill them up with some properties. In this example, we are going to add a example.username and an example.password properties. So in the username, let's just put my username local for our local secure properties file and my password local. Now for the dev secure properties, let's use the exact same properties, but in the values, we are going to put my username dev and my password dev instead of local. Once we have those, we can just save all clicking on this button right here. Now we can close both of them. And now let's go into hellomule.xml. If you click here on the Search in Exchange button, this will open a new window where you will be able to search for any other modules that you want to install in your workspace. In this case, let's search for Mule Secure Configuration Properties and press Enter. This will show the module that we want to add. Then just click on Add and in Finish. Now, we don't have any available connectors that we can use or operations that we can use for this module, but this doesn't mean that it's there for nothing. It just means that we cannot use any connectors to drag and drop into the canvas, but we will be using them for some global configurations. So if you go into global.xml and then switch to the Global Elements tab, you will be able to create and now search for secure properties. You will see the secure properties configuration right here. You can either click on OK or double click on it. This will open a new window where you can set the new properties. Under File, because we are using local.secure.properties and dev-secure properties, we can do the same thing that we did on the last video, which is selecting an environment property. So $, curly brackets, and inside you can just put env or the environment that we're using, then .secure.properties. This will tell the runtime which properties files we are using depending on the environment. So if we're in local, it will go to local.secure.properties, and if we're on dev, it will go to dev.secure.properties. Now for the key, we will be using another property. This time we are going to use secure.key. So again, the same syntax to use properties, $, and then curly brackets, and inside the curly brackets, you can write secure.key. So we will have to set up this property eventually to be able to encrypt or decrypt any of the properties. Finally, just change the algorithm to Blowfish. And that's it for this configuration. You can click on OK and leave all of the other defaults. let's save our file and go back to the hello Mule file. Now, we are going to read our credentials and output them in a logger in this example. So if we go to favorites, we can just take the logger component, drag and drop it into the canvas or into the flow after the set payload connector. Once we do that, it will open the properties that we can set up right here. In this case, in the message, we are going to set up some dataweave script to output the specific credentials that we want. So go ahead and click on the FX button and then go on the right side and click on this mapping button. This will open a new window where you will be able to input all of your dataweave code. Dataweave is a language that we are using here in MuleSoft in order to do some transformations or some basic functionality configuration stuff. In this case, if we want to add some expressions to the logger, we can do so using dataweave. Now on this top side right here, there are different buttons so you can change how the graphics are shown on this window. So if you change to this one, for example, you will see some mappings that you can do, and you will see the graphical interface with the mappings. On the second button is basically the same, but without the graphical mappings in the middle. And the third one is just the code. You can make this bigger if you just want to work on this window. So here, the first thing that I'm going to add is the output application Java. This means that everything that I'm going to do here is going to be of type Java. In my case, I just want to output a simple Java string. Then I can write the 3 dashes to tell dataweave that this is my header part, and then this is my body part, so this is where all my code will be. Then I'm going to write username in order to output the actual username here. Then I have to use the ++ function in order to concatenate strings. So now to output the property, I am going to do Mule, which is the module from dataweave that I'm going to use. Then : P. And P is a function that will bring our properties here. Finally, inside a string, I am going to write my property. So this is how you would read a normal property, but in our case, we're using a secure property. So to tell dataweave that this is going to be an encrypted value, we have to write secure and then : This will tell dataweave that the example.username property is secured and it needs to be decrypted before using the value here. After that, I am going to concatenate another string, and in this case, this is going to be just a dash, ++, and I also want to output the password. So I'm going to write password, : space, and then concatenate the second property. In this case, I'm just going to copy paste this and put password here instead of username. Now, if you're not familiar with dataweave, you don't actually have to write everything the exact same way that I just did. For example, if you don't do spaces and just put everything in the single line, this is still going to work. So now that we have our logger, you can either click on done here, or you can just click on the canvas and then save. Remember, you can save using Ctrl+S or Command+S, depending on your keyboard. Now we just need to encrypt our actual properties. So we don't want to be using these two values like that. We want them to be encrypted. And to do that, you can just go to the official MuleSoft documentation under runtime and then under security, secure configuration properties, or you will be able to find the link in this tutorial or in this video's description. The first thing you have to do is to download the jar file to use this tool. So you can just go into the document and then click on this link, and this will download the jar file. Once you have it downloaded, go into your console and navigate where that jar file is located. In my case, I just downloaded it and it's in my downloads folder. The format we are going to use will be this one, so you can just copy and paste the same thing in the terminal. Just make sure that all of the properties match with what we have in our settings. In our case, this is how it would look like. So we have string encrypt blowfish CVC, and then my MuleSoft key, which is going to be the password that we use to encrypt this property. Finally, the property, the actual value of the property, which is my username local. When we press enter, we will receive the encrypted property here. We just have to copy and paste this into our local.secure.properties. But notice that we can't just paste it just like that. We have to add an exclamation point and some square brackets. Now inside that, we can paste the value that we received. Now let's do the same thing for our other three properties. Now that everything is set up, we can finally test our application in our local computer. So I can just go into Hello Mule, right click on it, and then select Run As and Run Configurations. We are not going to run this yet because we still need to input the secure.property that we haven't done. So this will bring us into our Run Configurations. Here we have our Hello Mule application, and if we go to environment right here, we will be able to add the properties that our program is going to use. So if you click on add right here, it will bring up this dialog where you can add the name. In our case, it's secure.key, and then the value, which was my MuleSoft key. Now select OK. Also notice that if you don't want to create a global property from your global.xml files for the env property in local, you can also add here and select the name env and the value local. This would be working the same way instead of using the local global element configuration. In my case, I prefer to just put it in a global property. I will show you where that is. So for now, just click on apply and then run. If you go to global.xml, the property that I'm talking about is this one. So we set up a global property with the name env and the value local. I prefer to do this because if you forget to set up the env property from your run configurations, you will have it right here anyway. So maybe it's easier to just download the code and use it directly. But for the secure.key property, we cannot do this. I mean, we can, but we shouldn't. Because if you set up your secure.key inside your code, when you send this into a GitHub repository or any other place where you keep all your code, if someone has access to that code, they will be able to see the secure key that you are using, and they will be able to de-encrypt all of your properties. So for security reasons, it's better if you set the security.key in your run configurations instead of putting it right here in a global property, just like we did with the env property. So now that this is deployed, we can go back into Postman and then run the local call. So click on send. You will receive the Hello Mule and the 200 OK. But in our logs, now we have the username, my username local, and then password, my password local, which is what we just set up in our logger with the data weave code. So this application is working as expected. Now we can stop this and send our application to deploy to CloudHub. So right click on the Hello Mule and then Anypoint platform, deploy to CloudHub. This will bring up the runtime manager window just as before. Now this time there is an overwrite existing application checkbox. You can just leave this like that because we do want to overwrite the application that we already have running. And now let's go into properties. This may change depending on the version of Anypoint platform that you're using. You may already have all of these properties already set up for you, or you may have just like empty properties right here. That's okay. And now we just have to add our env property and then this will be set up to dev, and our secure.key, and this will be set up to my MuleSoft key. Once you're done with that, click on deploy. You can leave all of the other properties there. We will not be using them, or you can remove them if you want as well. Once a Mule application is deployed in Runtime Manager, you can click on it and see the settings. So in our case, in properties, you will see how the secure.key property just appears like that. It's not even hidden or anything. So if we want to hide this from people that may be looking into our screen, we can do so in Studio as well. So let's go back to Studio, and now let's open the Mule artifact.json file that we have. And then here we just have to add the secure properties field, and then add an array with the string that you want to secure. So in this case, secure.key is a property that you want to hide from CloudHub. So you can save this and then redeploy this. So Anypoint platform, deploy to CloudHub. And then once the window opens, if you go into properties, this property will still be appearing like that because we haven't deployed. So let's click on deploy application. Now once more, once the application is deployed, you can click on it, go to settings, and now in the properties, you will see that the secure.key property is now hidden. So even if you try to change it, it will still be hidden. And finally, the only thing we're missing is to test this application. So we are expecting to see the username and password here in the logs once we do the call. So let's go into Postman. And then we have this other call where we already have all set up. And then let's just click on send. We still receive the hello Mule response and the 200 OK response. So now let's see if we have the logs already. And yes, we can see now that we have the username, my username deb, and password, my password dev, which were the two values that we had set up for the dev environment. So congratulations, you finished this tutorial as well. Now you know how to secure your properties before deployment, so you can encrypt them and hide them from Runtime Manager as well to improve the security of your Mule applications. Continue your journey in these getting started tutorials, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you.